I had never heard the term no-clip until my younger cousin explained it to me at a family barbecue. He was sitting on the patio with the ketchup on his shirt, holding his phone like he was about to show me classified evidence. "It's when you fall through the map," he said, "like in video games. You glitch through the floor and end up outside the level where you're not supposed to be." He showed me a compilation video, characters half stuck in walls, avatars dropping through gray empty space, little digital bodies trapped behind scenery while the game kept running like nothing was wrong. We laughed about it. It seemed stupid and harmless. I think about that word a lot now. I work in a big box hardware store. Technically, it is retail. In practice, it feels more like a warehouse someone decided to let customers wander through. High ceilings, concrete floors, aisles numbered with huge hanging signs. Lumber, plumbing, electrical, paint, seasonal garden tools. On weekday evenings, the place gets quiet in a way that never feels fully empty. There are usually a few contractors grabbing materials after work, maybe a couple of nervous homeowners holding broken parts they hope someone can identify, and a skeleton crew of employees trying to get the store reset before close. My job is stocking and zoning, which mostly means putting things where they belong. There is something satisfying about it when the night is normal. Lining up rows of paint cans, facing labels forward, sliding boxes into the exact spot the scanner says they should go, making disorder look temporary. One Tuesday night, I was assigned to aisle 14, sheet goods. If you have never worked that section of a hardware store, imagine long racks of plywood, particle board, drywall, insulation board, and other heavy flat things stacked vertically in slots. You stand them up, slide them back, tag them, and try not to crush your fingers. It is dusty back there. The air tastes like sawdust and gypsum. It gets into your throat no matter how much water you drink. We had just gotten a shipment, so I was by myself sliding sheets into their places. The overhead music played faintly, some old rock song that had probably been on the store playlist since before I was hired. The fluorescent lights hummed. Somewhere far away, a forklift beeped as it backed through receiving. The first odd thing I noticed was the pallet. It was sitting in the middle of the aisle, loaded with drywall, but it was wrong. Not wrong in a dramatic way, just misaligned. The pallet was parked dead center, perfectly square, wrapped tight in plastic. It blocked the aisle like someone had measured the space and decided it belonged there. No one had dropped it off. I had been in aisle 14 for at least 20 minutes. No forklift had come by. No one had shouted heads up. There had been no clatter of forks, no voices, no wheels over concrete. 1 second the aisle had been clear, and the next, the pallet was there. I stood with one hand still on a sheet of drywall and stared at it. My brain did what brains do when they do not want a problem. Maybe I had stepped into the next aisle without realizing it. Maybe someone moved it while I was turned around. Maybe I was more tired than I thought. I walked around it. That was when the store went quiet. Not quieter, silent. The music cut out mid-chorus. The forklift beep stopped. The distant murmur of customers disappeared. The HVAC stopped pushing air through the vents. For a few seconds, all I heard was the buzz of the lights. Steady, flat, too loud. I stood perfectly still with the drywall half pulled from its slot. "Hello?" I called. My voice did not carry right. It sounded muffled, like I was speaking into a room full of insulation. No one answered. I stepped to the end of the aisle and looked around. The store was wrong. At first glance, everything looked familiar. Long rows of racks, hanging signs, end cap displays, stacks of merchandise. The same concrete floor polished by years of carts and boots. But the color was off. Everything had a faint yellow cast, like an old filter had been placed over my eyes. The air felt heavier too, almost humid, which made no sense in a store that was usually so dry my hands cracked by the end of winter. "Mike?" I called. "You guys messing with the sound system again?" Nothing. No customers, no coworkers, no motion anywhere. I walked toward the main aisle that ran down the center of the store. My footsteps echoed more than they should have on smooth concrete. Every step came back to me from too many directions. I passed aisle 13, then 12, then 11. Each one stretched away in perfect rows. Too perfect. That was the part that made my stomach tighten. Real stores are messy. Even when you face everything and sweep the floor, people leave traces behind. A roll of tape in the wrong bay, a torn label, a ladder parked crooked, dust streaks from shoes and carts. Here, everything was aligned, every shelf, every product, every hanging sign. It looked less like a store and more like someone's memory of a store. When I reached the main aisle, my brain stalled. It did not end. Normally, from sheet goods, you can see the sliding entrance doors one way and the back wall near receiving the other. Now the main aisle stretched in both directions until it faded into pale distance. The overhead lights repeated into a vanishing point so clean it almost looked fake. I picked a direction and started walking. "Hello!" I shouted. "Anyone here? This isn't funny!" My words vanished into the space. The fluorescent hum rode over everything, and I passed aisles that should not have existed. Aisle 27, aisle 36, aisle 52. Our store did not go that high. Their contents repeated in a way that made my eyes tired. Paint, plumbing, seasonal, then paint again. Then electrical, then garden, then tools, but slightly rearranged, like the same handful of categories had been copied, pasted, and reskinned by someone who did not understand how people actually shop. I turned around. The view behind me was exactly the same. An endless corridor of aisles and light. I started walking faster. Then I tried to be smart about it. I counted my steps. I turned only right. I marked where I had been by knocking over a small stack of empty paint cans, then walked away from them in a straight line. 3 turns later, I found the same toppled cans again, not similar cans, the same ones, same dented rim, same sideways label, same little fan of dust where they had hit the floor. That was when I remembered my cousin's video. The glitching characters, the gray void, the bodies trapped behind walls while the game kept going. Very funny, I thought. You fell through the map of reality. Good one. I laughed once. The sound came out wrong. Too loud at first, then too thin, stretched out until it barely sounded like me. That was when the fear settled in. I realized I had not seen a single sign of life since the pallet appeared. No fresh footprints in the dust. No carts abandoned in the middle of aisles. No smudges on the glossy concrete. Even the black scuff marks that usually lined the busiest paths were gone. Everything was too clean. Eventually, I did the thing you are not supposed to do when you are lost. I ran. I sprinted down the main aisle, past repeated sections of lighting fixtures, lawn chairs, power tools, patio furniture, and paint displays. My breath tore at my throat. The air tasted stale, like it had been recycled too many times. Every step echoed behind me, not with me, behind me. half a beat late, like something was trying to copy my pace and getting better at it. I turned left at random, then right, then another right. Somewhere along the way, the numbers disappeared from the hanging signs. The white panels became blank rectangles swaying slightly in a breeze I could not feel. I stopped running when a cramp hit my side so hard I doubled over. For a long moment, all I could do was crouch there, hands on my knees, head lowered, listening to my own breathing and that endless, fluorescent buzz. Then, faintly, I heard something else. A cart. The squeak of old wheels. The soft rattle of metal. I snapped upright. Far down the aisle, something turned the corner. For 1 second, I saw the outline of a shopping cart and the vague shape of a person pushing it. Relief hit me so hard I almost cried. "Hey!" I shouted. "Hey, wait!" The figure did not react. I ran toward them, waving one hand over my head. As I closed the distance, the details should have sharpened. They did not. The shape pushing the cart never became a person. It stayed blurred at the edges like a dark smear, standing where a customer should have been. The cart itself got stranger the closer I came. Too tall, too narrow. The wheels did not seem to touch the floor. I slowed. "Sir?" I called. The figure stopped. The hum dimmed around us. It did not stop. It lowered like the store was making room for another sound, something deeper. A vibration I felt in my bones. The shape turned. I cannot describe its face, not because it was hideous, not because it had too many eyes or a mouth where one should not be. It was worse than that. Every time my gaze tried to settle where facial features should have been, my mind slipped away from it. It was like trying to remember a word that vanishes the moment you reach for it. I had the awful certainty that if I ever managed to see it clearly, if I forced my brain to understand what was standing there, something permanent would happen. "Sorry," I said, backing away. "My mistake." The figure moved toward me. It did not walk. The cart stayed still. The wheels did not roll. The whole thing slid forward, figure and cart together, crossing too much distance in one smooth motion. I turned and bolted. This time, I did not care about aisles or signs. I slammed through displays, knocked over a stack of buckets, and kept running. The hum climbed higher and higher, a note bending out of tune until it made my teeth ache. Behind me, the cart rattled, sometimes close, sometimes far, sometimes from the aisle beside me, sometimes from ahead. Distance did not seem to mean anything anymore. I do not know how long I ran. At some point, I hit something I could only describe as cold, thick air. My vision smeared sideways. The shelves, lights, floor, and my own hands stretched for one impossible second like someone had dragged a finger through wet paint. Then I felt myself fall, not down, through. The next thing I knew, I was standing in aisle 14 with one hand on a sheet of drywall. The store sound system blared classic rock. A forklift beeped somewhere near receiving. Someone coughed. A child cried for a toy in the distance. My supervisor, Mike, stood at the end of the aisle frowning at me. "You okay?" he asked. "You were just standing there zoning out. I called your name like 3 times. I looked at my phone. Barely any time had passed, maybe 5 minutes. My clothes were dusty. My heart was pounding like I had run a mile. There was a smear of yellowish grime across my right hand that did not match anything in the aisle. I laughed it off. I told Mike I was tired. Then I went back to stacking drywall because I did not know what else to do. I tried to move on with my life. You can probably guess how well that worked. It is the small things now. Sometimes when I restock, I find products arranged in patterns that do not match the planograms. Subtle spirals, repeating sequences, shapes no bored customer would bother making, but too deliberate to be random. Sometimes when I lock up at night, the main aisle looks a few meters longer than it should. Sometimes customers mention aisle numbers that do not exist on our map at all. "What happened to aisle 37? They ask casually. "We don't have an aisle 37, I tell them. They frown like I have contradicted something they were certain of. Then their expression softens and they shake it off, as if the thought has been erased halfway through. Once on my lunch break, my cousin sent me another video. It was one of those backrooms no-clip compilations. People walking into perfectly normal doorways, then the footage, cutting to grainy yellow corridors that went on forever, text over images of damp carpet and humming lights. "Look familiar?" he wrote, followed by a laughing emoji. I stared at the phone for a long time. The images were crude, cheap, obviously made for views, but they matched something in the back of my mind too closely. A space glimpsed out of the corner of my eye between aisles. A place beyond the stockroom where the fluorescent light shifts a shade yellower and the air tastes stale. I typed, "Not funny." Then I deleted it. Instead, I wrote LOL creepy and put the phone face down. Here's the worst part. Sometimes, late at night when the store is closing and I walk the aisles one final time, I feel an urge to step sideways. Not down the aisle, not toward the registers, sideways, through the racks, as if there is a door there. My eyes cannot see, but my body remembers. Part of me believes that if I did it at the right angle, at the right moment, I would pass through the steel uprights, through the pegboard, through the expected geometry of the world, and drop back into that quiet, endless place. The place outside the level, the no-clip. Another part of me is terrified that one day I will not have a choice. Maybe it does not happen because you want it to. Maybe it happens because the world has a bug. And sooner or later, every object on the map has a chance of falling through. People vanish all the time. We say they ran away. We say they met with foul play. We say they chose it. But sometimes, in the quiet hum of fluorescence, in the endless aisles that should have ended, in the hallways and stairwells and hospital wings, in office rooms that appear where they should not, I think of my cousin's dumb video. I think of that word, no clip. And I wonder how many of us are just one misplaced step away from disappearing into a yellow room that hums forever.